How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
hierarchy. We love hierarchy. We are great respecters of hierarchy here. Nick is at the top of the hierarchy on his channel. I promise you, gripers, I am at the top of the fucking hierarchy on my channel. All right? Everyone calm down.
I'm at the top of the hierarchy
All right,
on
let's
my
watch the video.
channel. Nick is at the top of the hierarchy on his channel. And guys, I am the top of the hierarchy on my channel. I'm a libertarian,
Start the show,
but
Nick. What
around
the
here,
fuck?
I'm a fascist. My politics,
I thought I was
libertarian.
to the right
My
thing.
YouTube channel, fascism. It's a fascist
Very
autocracy,
excited
and I
to
am
be
the
back
top of the
here
hierarchy.
with you tonight on Friday, Casual Friday.
You're banned.
It's a casual fit.
You know, I really just feel like Big Tech and I I feel like Big Tech understands me. I feel like after all of these years of fighting and bantering and then fighting and then bantering and then fighting some more and then play fighting, I feel like we finally reached a place where Big Tech understands me, and I have to say I'm really thrilled about that. You know, it takes a real man to understand that a woman can be both a libertarian and a fascist at exactly the same time. In fact, that is the beauty of libertarianism. The beauty of libertarianism is that it embraces voluntary association. It embraces private property ownership. And on my channel, I am the private property owner. And on my channel, I get to say, you know what? It is actually a libertarian idea for me to behave like a fascist on my own YouTube channel. And I just love it. I love it. I feel like we've come to an understanding. And it's great. And you know what's even funny? I might as well do this update right now. You know, do you guys remember when Marty came into the chat on Friday? And he was being a pain in the ass, as Marty is, and people were saying, start the stream on Friday. Well, I didn't know this at the time, but the reason they were saying that is because apparently Big Tech was watching, and Big Tech has apparently created a Karlyn bingo card now, which, again, I have to say, I think this is a really good development. It's actually, you know what? I think the bingo card could use a little bit of work. I do like that he used a rather nice picture at the top. He could have been much more cruel. I also think, you know, he just needs to work on some of his categories, because some of his categories are just repeating. I really, you know what? I believe in him. I feel like he could create a much, much, much better bingo card. But I'm a fan of this. Again, I'm a fan of big tech's apparent new goal, which is to do things that are a little antagonistic, but ultimately not cruel. I have to say, I love it. And I'm not the only one that loves it either. I have to show you guys this before we get started, just because the people who are early to my channel will appreciate this. And then we'll get into the serious business, because we do have serious business to discuss today. But I have to show you, I'm not the only one, apparently, who loves Big Tech's new bingo card. I'm not the only one. The 500-pound fat ass that is inevitably stalking everything I say and do right now. She's watching everyone. Let me turn the chat on the screen. Everyone can wave to the 500-pound shut-in fat ass that watches every single show that I do, just so she can find a clip to take or twist out of context or any of these things to go tattle to someone about me. She is also apparently trying to get Big Tech's attention, and she seems to think that I'm mad at Big Tech over this bingo card. Oh, no. Oh, no. I love this, though. Look at how hard she's trying. Big Tech, don't listen to Karlyn. This is a great bingo card. I just think the bingo card could use some with some improved categories. That's all. I think he actually could have done better, is all I'm saying. But she's trying so hard to get his attention. And just as a reminder, just in case people don't know who we're talking about, this is the person. This is the evil cunt that stalks me literally every day of my life and has stalked me every day of my life for the past 5 years. And she stalks every single thing I say and do, and she tries to tag people and get me into trouble and all that stuff. And she's not even just tagging me anymore. Now she's tagging Brittany. She's trying to say that so Brittany got upset over the weekend. Brittany got upset because I was getting a lot of attention and she was not getting attention. And the reason I was getting attention is I was telling off Christians, which, can we just be honest about it? Telling off Christians on Twitter is just good fun. It's good fun. They get so pissed off. They get so riled up. They say the dumbest things out loud. I mean, can you believe the things that Christians say when you get them really, really, really pissed off? Anyway, essentially, so I was getting a lot of attention on Twitter for, well, pissing off Christians. And Brittany got upset about that. And Brittany said, "You're just trying to be a pick-me for Big Tech and Adam." And I was like, well, there are actually worse things to be in the world. But then psycho fat-ass Jill, who, again, remember, this is Brittany's new BFF right here, says, "This is actually a spot-on call-out, Brittany." Now, what the 500-pound fat-ass doesn't understand is that does she understand that Brittany's on Nick Fuentes' platform? Does the 500-pound fat ass understand that Brittany is literally on Nick Fuentes' platform and loves Nick Fuentes and would die for Nick Fuentes and would never turn her back on Nick Fuentes? Does Brittany realize who she's talking to? I don't think, or excuse me, not Brittany. Brittany doesn't really care who this woman is. But does the 500-pound fat ass stalker really realize who she's talking to? I don't know. She might know now. Like, Brittany likes Nick Fuentes more than I do. Brittany, even though Brittany is in fact Jewish, Brittany might actually dislike Jews more than I do, even though she is in fact Jewish. Yep, probably doesn't understand. Doesn't understand that Big Tech and I are play fighting. Doesn't understand that Brittany loves Nick Fuentes. Yeah, oh, silencing me is always the priority. Well, you know, I do have a big mouth. So I wanted to show you guys that little clip at the start and get that out of the way. And you know what? Again, I approve of the bingo card. I really like this. Do they have gets high on the internet on the? I don't know what, but I would never get high on the internet. I don't know why that would be on anyone's bingo card about me. Of course, like, I don't think that they do. They've got some stuff about what does he have? Oh God, I don't have my glasses on. Let's see. Claims something persecuted. Drops PhD reference. Live streams a meltdown. I haven't live streamed a meltdown in a good minute. Maybe I should do that again. I don't know. I don't really have anything to melt down about right now. Blames haters. Well, I mean, I'm not blaming any haters. I'm blaming the 500-pound shut-in fat ass. I just don't think that this is, like, really that, you know, whatever. Expose as a former ally. Yeah, I've done that a time or two. Joins a new movement. Well, I don't know about that. Anyway, so no, I don't see gets high on the bingo card, because of course I would never do that. So that would be a silly thing to put on a bingo card because I never, ever, 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 ever get high on the internet. That would never happen. Yeah, I might have a spiritual download though. That has happened on more than one occasion. Whatever. He can have his bingo card. He can have his fun. I don't care. As long as we're play fighting, that's fine with me. All right, guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. Happy Monday. Hey, guess what? Guess what? We have, let me see if it's processed yet. Dang. Okay, I am stalling. I am stalling because we have, I'm going to show it to you guys. We have a secretly recorded meeting with the Denver Communists that I have just uploaded onto the internet 20 minutes ago. And the thing of it is it needs time to process. It needs time to process on the YouTubes because it's a long ass meeting. But I had to edit it. I had to make sure that we protected the identity of our secret undercover informant because a member of my community, I have to give big old props to the member of my community who did this because a member of my community just went to a meeting with the Denver Communists and recorded the whole thing. And I said, can I have the recording of that? And they said yes. And then I said, can I show that recording on the internet? And they said yes, but we want to make sure we're protecting their identity because we want them to go back. And we don't want to out them. And so I had to make some quick edits to make sure that we were protecting their identity. And I uploaded it to YouTube and now it's processing. So we got to talk for a couple minutes before we watch this movie, okay? Hopefully it processes soon. It should be almost done. I can't imagine it's going to take that much longer. But we do have the file and we're just waiting for it to process. And then we're going to watch the secret meeting with the Denver Communists. And they're reading a book. Hang on, I'll get the book up so you guys can see what they're reading. What the hell is it called? Their End is Our Beginning. The book they're talking about is called Their End is Our Beginning, and this is by Brian Bean. And who knows who Brian Bean is in the chat? I know Reagan knows who Brian Bean is in the chat. I know our secret undercover informant, who I'm not going to out, knows who Brian Bean is in the chat. Who knows who Brian Bean is? Brian Bean is a psycho. Oh, wait, do we already have a retard on the channel? Bro. We've already got someone who thinks it's Monday. We usually don't get people who think we're communists until at least Wednesday or Thursday. You're really getting a head start on being a retard on the internet, I'll tell you what. Did you subscribe to my channel and then wait for 5 minutes while not fact-checking anything because you assumed we were communists? Is that what just happened? Maybe you should just maybe stop talking and maybe research a little bit more before you run your mouth on the internet. Like, it's Monday, bro. Can I have one day? Can I have one day without some retard conservative coming into my chat to try to tell me off for being a communist? My God. Anyway, yeah. Well, we're going to find out. You know, maybe the Denver Communists were talking about being pedos and Democrats the whole time. We're going to find out, that's for sure. While your thumbnail says you're a communist. No, it actually doesn't. No, Captain, I'm gonna give you a piece of advice. This is a smart people YouTube channel. You have to have a high IQ to be here. Well, maybe not even high. I'm not asking for the sun, the moon, and the stars. You just have to have 100 level IQ, but Captain, since you made a typo that completely changes the definition of your sentence, and also because you didn't properly research, and also because you don't apparently have basic reading comprehension. Do you have, does the title of the video say we're communists, or does the title of the video saying we're watching a secretly recorded communist meeting? Reading comprehension is a very important thing on this channel, bro. You got to work on that IQ point. Say another retarded thing in my chat, we're going to ban you though, because we don't want low IQ retards distracting us from the important work that we're doing. Maybe just try to sit in the corner and shut the fuck up and listen before you start running your mouth. I know that's a big ask for your average conservative. They don't know how to shut the fuck up and just listen to something for 5 minutes. But maybe you can go back there and try not to break anything. I don't know. We'll see how long you last in the chat, though. Anyway, we are watching today a meeting with the Denver Communists that was secretly recorded by a member of my community, in which they were talking about this book, Their End is Our Beginning. This book is written by Brian Bean. If you are a regular viewer of my channel, you probably know who Brian Bean is. Oh, look at this. We don't want freedom of speech open. Blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, bro, but now you're banned because I don't feel like listening to it anymore. Goodbye. fucking Monday, man. I can't even have one day. I can't even have one day. Cannot, not one day of peace without conservatives chirping in my ear, saying something stupid. Not one day of peace in the last 5 years. Whatever. This book is substantially more important, though, because Brian Bean is a radical revolutionary socialist. We actually have Brian Bean on video on more than one occasion talking about overthrowing the U.S. government. He has written a new book. It's called Their End is Our Beginning, Cops, Capitalism, and Abolition. Because when he's saying their end, he's talking about police abolition, prison abolition, the abolition of the prison industrial complex. The left, of course, believes that police and prisons are a manifestation of capitalism. They believe they are the managers or enforcers of private property ownership and blah, 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 blah. Brian Bean is basically a psycho. Brian Bean is married to another one of our favorite socialists called Mary Bowman. We got Mary Bowman on tape a couple years ago at the Socialism Conference talking about all sorts of crazy stuff around abortion and non-binary. And I got Vivek Ramaswamy to retweet her, and Mary was really happy about that because I got Mary on video denouncing the nuclear family and saying we're going to use queer relationship anarchy to queer the nuclear family. And then Vivek Ramaswamy retweeted it, and Mary got a lot of blowback for that. Mary is a professor at DePaul University in nursing, of course, and is married to a radical revolutionary anarchist who wants to overthrow the government. We knew all the socialists on this channel. We know all the socialists on the channel. He is not they're all Palestinian liberation. Palestinian liberation means to liberate oneself from capitalism. So they're all Palestinian liberation. But Brian Bean's been around way before the Palestine thing. Palestine is not, he does stuff around it, but that's not his only thing. So we are waiting for this video to process, and hopefully it process. It's already been 25 minutes since I uploaded YouTube. What's going on? What's going on with the video? Well, we've got a couple other orders of business before we get into that anyway. The first order of business is that, guys, we have a spy stream tonight. We are going to be ending this stream. I hope that video processes quickly because we're going to be ending this stream around 7 o'clock. Because around 7:15, we are going to be going into a supporter-exclusive spy stream. Tonight, we're going to be going into an organizing call in higher education where they are organizing to basically protest the Trump administration, all that stuff. This is going to be an organizing call of higher education professionals that are talking about basically obstructing the Trump administration. And I would stand to bet that some of them probably work at taxpayer-funded institutions. I'm just saying. Anyway, they're having an organizing meeting tonight, and we're going to be going inside of it. This spy stream is going to be a supporter exclusive spy stream. That means if you are a supporter on my main Substack, which is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, or on my locals or my Patreon or a Twitter subscriber or a YouTube channel member, you have been given access to the to the spy stream for tonight. What you want to do is go into that link, and I'll put it in the chat because there's still plenty of time to sign up. Scroll down, and underneath this red box for supporters, you will find the link information for tonight's spy stream, so you can come and join us, and that's going to get started around 7:15, and we're going to watch that call tonight. Also tonight, MacB is hosting movie night in the supporter Discord, so you can do the supporter exclusive spy stream starting at 7:15, and then we're going to go watch Pitch Black in the supporter Discord. It's Pitch Black, right? The Vin Diesel movie. So it's a really good movie if you haven't seen it. MacB is going to be showing it tonight in the supporter Discord starting around 9 p.m. So you will get access to that if you become a supporter on my Substack, and you can find the access link in the chat right now. I will also send it out to people who come to spy stream later, just to remind you to get your butts in the supporter Discord. Join us for movie night on Sundays and Mondays. We do them every single week, and that helps support the work I'm doing, which I really appreciate. How do I do this without taking breaks? Do you mean I don't know, man. I don't know. I've gotten used to it. I train for this shit. I've been doing this for a long time, but welcome back. We're glad you're here. Other things I want to talk about is, guess what, guys? The merch store is back online. Man, I had a freak out last night because I've been editing merch all week to get my merch store back online. I just rebranded the merch store from the Unwoke Art Store, and now it's called Red Menace Supply Company. And I had a freak out last night because I couldn't get in to edit the website on my merch store, and I was so pissed off, and I couldn't get anyone on support. I was like, what the ever-loving F? I want to get this up. I wanted to get it up last night, but I couldn't get into it. And then finally, after an hour and a half of trying, I finally got someone on Shopify to answer me, and they were like, oh, we have a system-wide outage. Don't worry about it. It'll be back soon. And I was like, well, Okay, fine. At least I didn't break anything. But the merch store is back online, guys. It is redmenacesupply.com. This used to be the Unwoke Art store. You can still get there by going to unwokeart.com if that is the address that you remember. And we've got some new merch out. We've got a couple new things. And as always with the merch store, in the first week, you can get 25% off all designs that are new to the store. So the very favorite design, and the design that a lot of people have been waiting for a while, the Bonfires Are Needed t-shirt is in the store. And it comes on hoodies and notebooks and mugs, I think, and other stuff as well. But of course, the t-shirts are my main interest because I love these t-shirts. I wear my own t-shirts almost exclusively. I love these t-shirts. And these are nice soft jersey t-shirts, and they come in a couple different colors. And I mean, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Like, what I think is, and I'm actually serious about this, I think we need to put a moratorium on publishing all queer material. I just don't want to publish it anymore. And I think queer material should be taken out of libraries and, quite frankly, burned in bonfires in the parking lots. And I think we should jail people for teaching kids anything related to queer ideology. And as a reminder, queer is not about being gay. Queer is not about being trans. Queer is a far-left political ideology that wants to overthrow the United States government via abolishing the gender binary and the nuclear family to destabilize basically all of society. I don't think that sounds like a good idea, and I think that bonfires for books that advance this ideology, I think that's kind of like the bare minimum that we should be doing. I'm not talking about getting rid of people or anything. I'm just saying that maybe we shouldn't be teaching kids that gender isn't real and that the nuclear family perpetuates capitalism. Maybe we shouldn't be doing those things and we'd have a whole lot less problems. So I created this t-shirt. It says bonfires are needed and it has a picture of a bonfire, very monochromatic. Looks pretty cool. We've got the black version. We also have a just for Judy. I always have a light version for Judy. But honestly, my favorite might be the orange version. I think that just looks really effing cool. But I'm going to be getting probably both the orange and the black version. I don't even wear color most of the time, and I even like the orange version. That is one of the designs you can get in the merch store right now. You can see here, comes on hoodies, long sleeve shirts, tank tops, notebooks, glasses, mugs. Also, by special request, I did put the Center for Left Wing Studies logo on a couple pieces of merch. We got t-shirts, we got long sleeve shirts, but can I show you guys this? Check this out. I had to have it. I basically made this Letterman jacket, and this is an embroidered logo over here. I basically made this because I want it. I want this jacket. I'm going to put a giant fuck off QR code on the back of it too. I'm not going to sell it with a giant QR code on it, but I want this jacket. And so I had to make it. I had to put it in the store. This is my Center for Left Wing Studies logo. And of course, both these, the Center for Left Wing Studies stuff and the Bonfire stuff are all 25% off because this is the first week of launch. And so if you want some cool merch, you can get it now over in Red Menace Supply Company. And there's going to be more stuff being added. We're going to do more limited edition designs, stuff like that. And of course, all purchases do go to support the work I'm doing. And I really, really appreciate it. Is that video processed yet? Uh-oh. No! Are we making progress? Come on! We need the video to process. Can I just take the video and put it in the browser? Is that a thing I can do? I can! Shit. We didn't even need the video to process. Look at that. I've already got the video there. Cool. Anyway, one more thing before we get into the video. I want to let people know that the second chapter from my book, Queer Marxism, is online. And this is all about the first lesbian activist organization in the United States. And it started off as like a proper lesbian organization where there were these lesbians in San Francisco that just wanted a place where they could get together and have a safe space and read poetry and do things that lesbians do for whatever reason. And then guess what happened to the lesbians in San Francisco? They started getting infiltrated by the queer activists very early on. And so the lesbians in San Francisco, they tried to be assimilationist. They tried to say, we just want to fit in and all that stuff and just treat us normal. We just want to fit in. These were, again, the good normie, like LGBT rights activists. They just wanted to be left alone and to be basically able to do their thing. And then guess what started happening? Radical queer activists started infiltrating them and taking them over and ruined the whole thing. So that's the draft chapter 2 of my book, Queer Marxism, where I am following and telling the story of the development and evolution of queer ideology in the United States. We've got 2 chapters online right now. I am working on many, many more chapters to come. You can find this over on the Red Menace Collective Substack, which is different than my main Substack. This is where I publish my book drafts before the book is actually published. And you guys can read the drafts before they are live to the world in the form of a book, so check that out. All right, I guess we can jump into the video. Do I have anything else? Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Decode the Left clip channel. Reagan and I are building this out to put all my clips all in one place so people can find them there. And I guess we can get right into it. So what we're going to be watching today is a meeting that was secretly recorded by a member of my community, and I want to thank them for their service because it was awesome. I didn't even know they were doing it until after they did it. And this is a meeting with the Denver Communists where they are discussing a book about the abolition of the police and the abolition of capitalism. And what I think is going to be interesting about this is, obviously, we see a lot of recorded information from the Denver Communists on a regular basis, but usually they know they're being recorded. Because the Denver Communists do put a lot of stuff up on their YouTube channel, right? And we watch it and we love it because they speak in plain English. They didn't know they were being recorded this time. So I'm really anxious to hear what they had to say, and we're going to watch this, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to do that until about 7 o'clock tonight, and then we're going to go and we're going to do another stream, okay? Everyone, mount the like button for me if you would be so kind. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. If you are not already, let's see what the Denver Communists had to say.
I'm supposed to share the intro section, but I have nothing pulled up. The fucking internet won't work. Damn dependent. Anyways, yeah, so this is so dumb. Yeah, we usually have a little spiel. I know there's like some new faces in here, some new names that I don't recognize. It's just one. But yeah, we're with the Denver Communists. We do our meetings on Wednesdays. This is our Sunday reading group. We just finished up Palestine Marxism last session, and then this is the new book is Their End is Our Beginning. If you didn't get a copy, I know we have a bunch of physical copies that we would love to sell to you at a premium because we're all in this to get rich. That's why we do it. As well as like a PDF download that we'll give you for free if you want to go that route. Either way, I know a lot of it's like physical copybook kind of people for notes and stuff like that. Anyways, yeah, we have a couple weeks on this book. Pretty stoked about it. Let's hop on in. The introduction was the only assignment for today, which was a whopping 14 pages, which goes by really quickly. Partially because Brian Bean is such a great writer. Sorry, I don't want to look at Jason's face. There we go. There's everybody else's faces. Yeah, I literally stare at Jason the whole time. Hey, there's everybody else. Nice. Yeah, Brian's just such a phenomenal writer. If you haven't had the chance to read his writing or listen to him speak, I'd recommend the hell out of it. All of his talks are great.
I agree. Brian Bean is great to listen to because Brian Bean is almost pretty much as radical as they come, and he speaks in plain English. We should probably listen to some more Brian Bean talks this week, if I'm being honest about it. Maybe Reagan can help out with them. I know Reagan's working on a research project about Brian Bean.
And yeah, it's just great. So yeah, this first chapter, as introductions go, Brian stays pretty surface level with it.
Yep,
talk
Reagan
about big, broad, thematic stuff.
I knew it.
Oh yeah, big, broad, dramatic, big, broad, big picture stuff. And then goes into just kind of like a chapter by chapter breakdown. At about page 10, just kind of goes into like the different chapter overview. So I was going to split up those two ways. I can't imagine that we're going to spend an hour and a half talking about these 14 pages, which is okay. We'll talk about what we want to talk about, and then we can, get into kind of the more meat of the stuff later. To use a phrase that I used for the last book that we read by Joseph Daher, I think the pace of Brian Bean's writing is really good. He's very obviously like an organizer and an activist and a revolutionary. He's not an academic. He's not going to sit here and like, rattle off like 15 citations. I do not have criticisms of how you fucking further reading, Jason. So he he just like gets through the arguments. He's not just like listing off a bunch of citations like academia kind of requires. So I think like for us, it just makes the book so much more readable and so much more accessible. It's pretty cool that, in my opinion, like that Joseph Daher book will probably be like the first book that I recommend to everyone on Palestine, and I think we should kind of adopt that like as the text, just because he moves through the arguments so well. And I think this book as well will be like the book that we recommend on police abolition, our policy on police, again because Brian moves through his arguments so well. So yeah, the first kind of like chunk that is like pages 1 to page 10 before the chapter overview. Brian's just kind of like opening up, talking about the different like aspects of the book, what this book's going to do. A couple of like, key insights. One is that he very like quickly and very, kind of emphatically says this will be a book that uses Marxism as a theoretical tool. We're not doing anything else but that. We love that. We love when authors kind of put their cards on the table like that from the jump. And obviously, Brian is kind of like the best example of that. He knows exactly what he's trying to get done with this book. It's not just about education, but it's about developing a tool set. So that's great. And then with that, of course, he goes into like, I wouldn't say great length because it's only like, a couple paragraphs. He very emphatically talks about capitalism, the abolition of capitalism being inherent to and necessary for the abolition of the police.
The abolition of capitalism is intrinsically related to the abolition of the police? Wow. Because the left believes that the police are the enforcement mechanism of capitalism. In their Marxist utopia, this is why the police will not exist, why prisons will not exist, or they'll be repurposed into gulags or something like that. This is why the left pushes to defund the police, abolish the police. This is what Black Lives Matter was all about. Black Lives Matter had nothing to do with race, guys. Black Lives Matter was a police abolition movement, which it was directly related to the abolition of capitalism. Does everyone understand that? Just in case people are new, does everyone understand that Black Lives Matter had nothing to do with race? They attacked black-owned businesses all the time. It wasn't about black-owned businesses. It wasn't about black lives. They didn't give a flip about black lives if those black people weren't communists. It was more like proletarian lives matter. That's exactly right.
He's got all these quotes by Mariam Kamba, Angela Davis, Wilson Gilmore, D.G. Kelly, Robin D.G. Kelly, saying, abolition, communism being redundant. These are one and the same. So yeah. And then the second thing that he kind of like, very quickly opens up to, or at least, quickly adds onto is the racial aspect, racism being inherent to policing. This is, these cops aren't just violent. They don't just enforce capitalism, but they also enforce racism. They are racially violent, particularly. He gives those quotes that, or the statistics that, we all, sorry, I'm having a hard time focusing. There's like a crying baby in the background. Mm-hmm. Noise cancellation on. Heck yeah.
Communists have kids?
Doing great, Ben.
Wow. I thought communists aborted all their babies according to conservatives.
Right. Racism. I loved the quote that he has about racism is not the sawdust, rather racism is the sharpened teeth of the saw. And I think that in our tradition, right, something I think that that sets us apart from other vulgar Marxists is our confrontation of oppression at all times, wherever it raises its head. We're not going to sit here and talk about, well, first we have to do this, and then we can get to racism later. No, we fight, we combat racism as we combat capitalism. They're one and the same struggle, that we can't see them in this like bullshit stagist way.
Racism, the struggle against racism and the struggle against capitalism are one and the same. I was literally just trying to explain this to someone on Twitter earlier. There's this clip going around Twitter of like this black woman that wants reparations arguing with a black man who's like, why would you want reparations? And it was one of those like Jubilee things where you got 20 people arguing with one person or whatever. But there's a clip going around Twitter where this black woman is making that argument. And I tried to be like, this isn't about skin color. This is about capitalism. It's always about capitalism when they're talking about racism, white supremacy, whiteness. They're talking about systemic racism. Systemic racism means the system that upholds racism, because they believe that racism is intimately tied to capitalism, because capitalism created racism, and you can't get rid of racism without getting rid of capitalism, because capitalism is the system that created it. Okay? Listen again.
Racism as we combat capitalism. They're one and the same.
Hang on, I'll go back a little bit more.
Racism is the sharpened teeth of the saw. And I think that in our tradition, right, something I think that, that sets us apart from other vulgar Marxists is our confrontation of oppression at all times, wherever it raises its head. We're not going to sit here and talk about, well, first we have to do this, and then we can get to racism later. No, we fight, we combat racism as we combat capitalism. They're one and the same struggle, that we can't see them in this like bullshit stagist way, where certain oppressions have to be put off till the next stage. We confront all oppressions in the here and now.
So I want to remind people too, because sometimes people come on my channel and they're like, Karlyn, are they just saying this publicly and then they say something else privately? This was a secret secret recording of their meeting where they didn't know they were being recorded. This is a private meeting where they're talking amongst themselves. They didn't know they were being recorded. So even in their private meetings, we're basically a fly on the wall of a meeting we're not supposed to be seeing right now. Even in their private meetings, they're talking about how racism and capitalism are completely intertwined. You cannot stop one without the other. They are basically the same thing because capitalism caused racism. So they say exactly the same thing privately as they say publicly. The public videos that we watch are not marketing to try to throw people off the tracks. It's what they actually believe. Judy, I don't know what's going on there, but I will take a look at that. I may have broken something. I will take a look at that.
And Brian later in this, when he goes to his chapter overview, talks about how a police abolition, the analysis of police abolition, deepens and strengthens all social movements. And whenever these movements are able to adopt an analysis of police abolition, it makes them stronger and pushes them on further. How do I turn off the fucking chat? I don't think I can.
You can't stop the Denver communists from chatting.
Yeah.
And then just like the last point that I would go to is just that he talks about this book is about confrontation, which I think again, Brian Bean speaks our language. He says all the things that we want someone to say, which is just going to happen over and over again in this book. But yeah, we want to be confronting capitalism. We want to be confronting the police. We're not interested in parallel structures that just exist in conjunction with the police, because that's not how this shit works. These are compounding factors that result in this. We can't just move all of our best friends to communes in the mountains, because many have tried and none have succeeded. So yeah, I guess I'll kind of stop
None of their
there.
communes have succeeded. Oh wow.
Yeah, I'll stop there, and then after that, we can kind of circulate around a little bit, and then we can talk about the chapter overview. What's up? Yeah, then after we can talk about the chapter overview. So go ahead. Everyone who said anything in the chat needs to get on Stack, by the way. Yeah, no kidding, Connor. All right, go ahead. Anybody? Yes, Nate, fire away.
First.
Yeah, I liked the section here. Like, I know that these are just kind of like brief intros to the rest of the book. So I'm excited to read the rest of the book. I really liked this part here because I was having a conversation with a friend just last night about this. Any strain of the socialist movement that does not hold as central to the general politics of anti-racism and police abolition is incoherent and self-defeating. And I love that. That's a very concise way to just wrap it all together there. I when I was very new to this group, I still feel very new, but I guess I'm coming up on like a full 2 years now. But it blew my mind that there were so-called leftist organizations here that openly worked with the police. Um, it's laughable. Um, we could get into the history of it, which we will in this book. But it's not enough to just not be a racist today. I don't think it ever was. But you have to be anti-racist. Like you have to be actively against it. Um,
And being anti-racist means being against the police.
and if people are just taking these like these wishy-washy, making excuses for the police, making excuses for capitalism, and they're just like, well,
Same thing.
they're old, so we can't reach them or try to challenge their ideas or anything. It's like, no, that's bullshit. And we need to do our best to combat racism and bigotry in any forms, proactively fighting against it when we see it. So yeah, love that. Excited to hear more.
Hang on. We have to remind people. Just because you don't like the police, they don't like the police for a completely different reason. So do not make the mistake of thinking you're on the same team. I don't like the police. I think the police are an organized gang. I dislike the police for a very, very different reason than the left dislikes them. You are not on the same team.
Hey, Ben, do you want me to manage Stack?
No, I can do it. Everyone has to repost it because I switched from my phone back to my computer.
Okay.
I don't know who's next. Whoever's next, start talking. Sick.
Hey,
Let it go.
so this is going to be a banger, obviously, and I love that he answers the call from Lenin in What Is to Be Done. He's like, when Lenin asked the socialist revolutionary produce a single picture of police violence and capitalist exploitation, here it is. To abolish the police, we must abolish the capitalist state, achieved through an international revolution for socialism, a path that inevitably passes directly through a police line. There's no
an international revolution for socialism. So people oftentimes they ask, like, Karlyn, why don't communists just go live in a communist country? Why don't they go live in Venezuela or Cuba or China or blah, 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 blah. Communists don't believe in going to live in a communist country because they do not believe that communism can thrive in a single country. They believe it needs to be a worldwide endeavor. Intifada has nothing to do with genociding the Jews like the conservative media wants you to believe. Intifada means worldwide socialist revolution. So it's this attitude that if you have a communist country that's surrounded by capitalist countries, that communist country can't survive because they're surrounded by capitalist countries. The only way it can survive is if they do worldwide communism. That runs right through the United States because they believe the United States is the first domino to fall. So don't ever ask the question, why don't you just move to Venezuela? Because anytime you ask that question, what you're really revealing is that you do not understand the left. You do not understand their philosophy. You do not understand their perspective. You don't understand their language. You don't understand anything about them. No. We don't do this here. Only retards dismiss them, bro. If they're over indoctrinated fools and you're losing to them because you are losing to them, what does that make you? if they're the fools and you're losing to them, that kind of makes you even worse, doesn't it? We do not dismiss them here. Dismissing them is why they're winning and why you're losing and why you probably don't even know you're losing because you have no idea what's going on.
Equivocations. There's no quibbling. He just goes right for it from the very beginning, and I think he's going to stick with it the whole book. So I'm excited about it. Unrepentant indictment of policing. And I also thought it was cool. In the Communist Manifesto, the word abolition used 20 times, abolish 9, and communism, the subject of the freaking work, was would not use it.
You are hereby forbidden from asking questions that have nothing to do with what's being talked about, because you do this all the time. You come into the chat, you're not listening to the video, you're asking questions about something that has nothing to do with what's being talked about, so you are now restricted to only asking questions that are relevant to the video, and if you can't formulate a question that's relevant to the video, I need you to zip it and I need you to listen to the video, okay?
His name or party 13 times. So it's central.
And the reason for this is oftentimes these are gotcha questions because you're trying to get me to contradict myself from something I previously answered. It's also completely distracting to what we're doing and it takes us off track. This is a class. You are in my class. You cannot come in and completely disrupt my class with questions that you're just using for a gotcha moment, by the way.
To the communist struggle from the very beginning.
Yeah, totally, Nate. He was also like writing this in like a big uptick in like the popularity of the word abolition. Like abolition's was and still is, but getting real hot. I got Ken next. Myself next. No, Ken next.
Thanks, Ben. Ken, he, him, Firebrand, DC, Denver, based in Pittsburgh. Yeah, so far I really like what Brian's going into in the introduction and connecting it sort of to the struggle for abolition as foundational to the struggle for revolutionary socialism and the abolition of private property. What really comes to mind when I think about abolition is just the violence of private property as a whole.
Oh, the violence of private property as a whole. Oh, you don't say, because when the left says capitalism, they mean private property ownership. Your generation absolutely was taught this. This has been around for 100 years, bro. Your generation, okay, you're another person where you're brand new. We love new people, but you seem to think that you know everything about everything. I can tell just from your chats. You're going to be, your best bet is going to be to ask questions, bro. You need to unlearn all the bullshit you think you know. It's probably not real anyway. Ask questions about what's going on because you don't seem to realize that this has been in the country for 100 fucking years. Let's listen to that again.
From the very beginning.
Capitalism is defined as private property ownership.
He was also like writing this in like a big uptick in like the popularity of the word abolition. Like abolition's was and still is, but getting real hot. I got Ken next. Myself next. No, Ken next.
Thanks, Ben. Ken, he, him, Firebrand, DC, Denver, based in Pittsburgh. Yeah, so far I really like what Brian's going into in the introduction and connecting it sort of to the struggle for abolition as foundational to the struggle for revolutionary socialism and the abolition of private property. What really comes to mind when I think about abolition is just the violence of private property as a whole, and how that's integral to Marxist theory and analysis. And I'm excited to see what they use throughout the rest of the book in terms of citations of Marx and Lenin and other Marxists in analyzing this phenomenon more directly. Pretty often sometimes I have never really, I've always been pro-abolition, but I haven't read a lot of abolition theory. So I'm excited to dig into this. And I also sometimes see in our movement that, the movement against the police is sort of viewed as an isolated area of focus from all of these other struggles on the left. And I think, it has to be connected to the greater revolutionary struggle. That's so important. And that's going back, decades at this point in the United States when it comes to abolition theory. I recently also required Angela Davis's Abolition. So I'm excited to kind of read both and compare and contrast while we go through this book. Again, I've never read Davis's book either, so I'm pretty excited to get into that and just see, as the history of the American left is often quite tied to obviously anti-racism, which is connected to anti-policing, but the greater Marxist scope of attacking the violence of private property via revolution, I think is key here. So I'm excited to get into the rest of it and excited to hear.
A revolution against what, do you think? What is he talking about, a revolution? Attacking private property via revolution. What does that mean? Pop quiz for the chat. A revolution against what? From what to what? Yeah. Ding. Revolution. Ding. The revolution against private property. What does that mean, guys? Listen to that again. The state. Can you be more specific? A revolution against capitalism. Okay, but what does that mean? What does that mean? A revolution against what? What are they revolting against? Please don't be retarded. It's only Monday. You guys cannot start being retarded on fucking Monday. What are they the U.S. government. Thank you. When they say a revolution, they mean against the capitalist United States government. They believe the government is based in capitalism. The Constitution is based in capitalism. When they're talking about overthrowing capitalism, they're talking about overthrowing private property ownership, because private property ownership is the definition of capitalism. They're talking about overthrowing the United States government.
The American left is often quite tied to obviously anti-racism, which is connected to anti-policing, but the greater Marxist scope of attacking the violence of private property via revolution, I think is key here. So I'm excited to get into the rest of it and excited to hear what other comrades have to say who may be more familiar with connecting abolition theory to Marxist theory.
Just messed up my knitting.
Thank you, Ken. I got Maria next on stack, and then Chelsea after Maria.
No. So Elder Millennial over on Rumble saying they're rebelling against the average man. No, they're not. No, that is not the correct answer. They are rebelling against the United States capitalist government. You guys can't just make definitions up. The definitions that we are concerned about are not whatever things you've made up in your head after watching too much conservative media. The definitions that we're concerned about is what are the left's definitions of these terms. The left's definitions of these terms are going to tell us how the left is going to behave. The left is not going to behave, again, based on whatever definitions conservatives have made up in their heads after watching too much conservative bullshit. The definitions that are going to drive the left's behavior are the definitions that they believe. And what they believe is they're not rebelling against the common man. They see themselves as advocates for the people. That's why it's the people's everything. The people's army, the people's this, the people's that. They don't see themselves as rebelling against the common man. So if your definition of that, based on the conservative bullshit con artists that you listen to, you're not going to understand the left. If you insist on holding on to your definitions, you are not going to understand what is going on, because they are not basing their behaviors on your conservative con artist definitions. They're basing it up based on their definitions. Does everyone understand that? Oh, now the conservatives whining about how we're not going to give up private property until they kill us. Well, they're fine with killing you. They're fine with killing you, and we all know that you're way too fucking lazy to actually do anything about it. So you can whine and complain all you want that you were told that your definition is wrong, or you can shut the fuck up and listen and learn about what's going to happen. All the time with conservatives, getting in their fucking feelings. Conservative feelings, are the thing that prevent us from actually being productive. Oh, he's a political TikTok star? Oh, okay. Well, like even less impressive then. Even less impressive. It's even less impressive for a content creator to not know what the fuck they're talking about. In fact, it's more reprehensible so far as I'm concerned. Anyway.
What's up, comrades? Maria. Oh, here I'm on my phone, but let me. Hello. She, her with Denver Communist and Firebrand. Yeah, I just want to, I guess, echo what a lot of people were saying. I'm really excited about this book. Kind of like what Ken was saying, I feel like a lot of like the sort of popular abolition books that have come out recently are like pretty eclectic. Like they're kind of like anarchist leaning, and sort of like come to this like build a commune. Yeah, rad lib, like build a commune, mutual aid conclusions. So I'm like specifically really excited to see Brian like trace like the creation of the police alongside the birth of capitalism and like how it's tied together right from the beginning, and like look at that through like a really concrete, I know it's going to be concrete.
So they believe that the police and capitalism have been tied together from the very beginning. Exactly.
Marxism with Brian. So I'm super excited about that because yeah, I think a lot of sort of the books that are recommended around prison abolition and police abolition, especially like the ones that are really common right now, are kind of eclectic. I also really, there was like one part in here where Brian said, ACAB is not like ACAB's not just like a slogan, but it's a political theory. I think Tyler said that in a meeting recently, and we were all kind of like,
ACAB is ACAB, all cops are bastards.
Like giggling, but then just reading it how Brian lays it out, it's so true. Like in pretty much any struggle in the world, you can look at what side are the cops on, and I'm on the other side, and that's going to be like the perfect starting point to figure out what politically, like what side you should align with or what your political analysis could be. As long as you start with I'm on the opposite side of the cops, you can kind of like figure your way out there. So it's a catchy slogan, as well as like what did he say, a material analysis of the police as an institution. So I really liked that.
Thanks, Maria. You got Chelsea next.
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts stirring through my head right now, and most of it is kind of like complaining. I feel like we really need to share this book with fellow organizations in Denver as well. Like, what is it? DCAC is one with their community control of the police. Some of Dasher's stuff. All respect to Vinny, but some of the Dasher stuff, as well as what is it? Aurora Unidos. I think there's, and even like Cop Watch, right? We're monitoring the police. We want community control of the police. You know, these organizations that are somewhat eclectic, but some of them, like DCAC, for instance, that is a front group for Frizzo, right? I think I'm really frustrated. I don't really have much interest in reading general abolitionist theory, quite honestly, because it is often really lacking any sort of class analysis. And what I appreciate about the introduction of this book is already we're talking about Lenin. Already we're talking about the ways that abolition is talked about in the manifesto, and it's not this soft, squishy, fucking community vibes that we're confronted with all of the time in other organizational spaces as well. And so I'm hoping that this book will help equip me with eloquent arguments that I can make with others in intervening in such a way that the ideas are really approachable and simple and aren't going to be received as this, like, as if we're being class reductionist or with arguments of identity politics, because those are also, you know, sometimes that eclecticism, that confusion exists of like, well, if you're going to prioritize Marxism, that's a white man from Europe. or Lenin is the white man from Europe, rather than saying these different authors that are coming out with, they're bringing to light the important concept of abolition. It's not to say that none of these things are valuable, at least in the introductory, but it's our job to bring those ideas further and connect them with a larger picture, and bring it towards a real class analysis that can bring it towards, organizing in revolutionary socialism. And so that's kind of our task around all of these things. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, totally, Chelsea. I don't think I have anybody on stack right now. Oh, no, Jim. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Great, thanks. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Unfortunately, I have not been able to do the reading because my laptop's out and I can't download the file on my phone. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to chime in with how essential the police are to capitalism. I mean, basically, the police create the situations of private property that oppress us all. To try and get around that, and say they mean well, and their job is to oppress, period. So anyway, thanks.
Hey, Judy, I think I fixed that button issue in the store, and basically what happened with the button in the store is that it was still there, but because I updated the color scheme for the website, it was blending in with the background. So I just made it red, so now you should be able to find it. Let me know if you have any trouble. I appreciate you letting me know.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, hopefully you can get the text, Conrad. I don't know if we can help get one to you or something like that. But yeah, if we can, yeah, maybe like message me on the side or something, or we'd love to mail one to you, or yeah, whatever way we can help out with that. I was gonna say I just shoot me.
No. What the left believes is that the police are the managers of private property. They believe that the police's only job is to protect private property. Capitalism is defined as private property ownership, so the police are the protectors of capitalism. They believe the police started with capitalism because capitalism brought slaves to America, and that the police were created as like slave catchers, so the police were created to go and protect the private property of the owners, and so that's why capitalism and the police are intertwined from the very beginning.
Sorry, whoever's next can go. Jason, you're next. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, great stuff. I'm with y'all all the way. I'm very excited about this book. So Brian mentions that racism is the sawdust, or is not the sawdust, but the saw, like the tool. It's the tool itself. The tool itself. It's not some byproduct of capitalism. He's actually quoting, and I'm surprised he didn't like note this, a comrade of ours who's acknowledged in the acknowledgments. But anyway, this is a great talk, and that's where the sawdust, or the saw, not the sawdust analogy comes from, and you should listen to that. Yeah, he lays the cards. Brian lays their cards on the table really well, and to be honest, better than I expected in this book, at least already, and so far. I know that they were initially considering revolutionary abolitionism as the title of the book, and instead of the title of the last chapter, or which is the title of the last chapter, and we're concerned that it was going to seem too sectarian, like too setting apart the ideas of the book from the rest of the abolitionist movement, basically, and saying that like the rest of that shit isn't revolutionary. And so I told them that's what I like. He, they. Brian uses he, they pronouns. I told them that's what I like about it, like, but despite not going with that as the title, I think they are starting on that ground from the beginning, as has been said. Like they said, look, we're using a Marxist framework here, and abolition belongs to the communist tradition. I love the and is core to, um, uh, and honestly, the other abolitionisms aren't going to get it done. And I know Brian's gonna get into that more and more. But anyway, I think all those things are good. Yeah, regarding parallel structures, or Brian also in this chapter talks about making the police obsolete. And this is an idea that's out there, right? Like, if we could only get build a more equitable capitalism, then the police would, we wouldn't have crime, that kind of thing. Or if we could start to replace bit by bit uh, the police's role in society with people that don't have guns and unlimited immunity or whatever, then we can make them obsolete and work them out of a job. I don't know that that's like Dasher's. For instance, Dasher is one of, for those who aren't in Denver or don't know, is one of the projects to get people who aren't cops to respond to the mental health crisis and like street health issues in Denver. And we know some of them, and our comrades with them, while also having this type of a critique of that effort. And to be honest, it's not, mine isn't fully formed of their particular thing. Uh we could talk more about it, but anyway, but we're not going to make them obsolete, because the police are essential to capital and the rule and capitalism. And uh yeah, I want to talk more about the community control demand, and or oversight, police oversight demand, because that's also come up in the Jacques Graton case, as a demand that's been raised, that like the Maoists are very supportive of. I guess I'll stop there. Thanks, comrades.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it makes me think of that point that Steve brings up sometimes, that like policing was actually a progressive reform in its day. That police were seen as like a step towards progress. And then as far as like just like developing them more. I got Ken next. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I'm glad to, hear more about some of these, these more reformist efforts, just to get an idea of what they look like. I'm not as familiar with what that looks like here in Pittsburgh. I haven't really, engaged with that side of the left here. If there is really anything in terms of trying to have more community-based efforts towards, like, whether it's mutual aid or responding to crises in place of the police. I think that exists here, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So I'm curious now to see what that looks like. But I do also like how Brian, they make it pretty clear here that, the goal for abolition has to be tied to the goal for the abolition of the capitalist state. And that makes me think how there are so many ways that the capitalist state and capital in general serves as a coercive tool to.
Again, when they them says the capitalist state, they mean the United States government and the United States Constitution, which they literally do call the capitalist state, and now you're hearing them say that. Again, please, sir.
Side of the left here, if there is really anything in terms of trying to have more community-based efforts towards, like, whether it's mutual aid or responding to crises in place of the police. I think that exists here, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So I'm curious now to see what that looks like. But I do also like how Brian, they make it pretty clear here that, the goal for abolition has to be tied to the goal for the abolition of the capitalist state. And that makes me think how there are so many ways that the capitalist state and capital in general serves as a coercive tool to keep the working class under the boot of capital, whether that's through forcing people to, work to live, or perpetually threatening people with being unhoused or, being unemployed, and essentially that sort of degradation of people in order to preserve the power of capital. And the police really are the face of that violent coercion of keeping the working class under the boot of capital. And, as
Hey, Timothy, did you hear them say replace the police? I didn't hear them say that, so we don't make shit up here. If you didn't hear them say it, then don't assume it.
I've thought more about abolition, I've thought more about, how Marx and Lenin referred to the special armed bodies of men, for lack of a better term, when they were writing in their time. And I think that, as we see how, there's so many efforts, especially from the liberal and reformist left, to try to integrate the police into the progressive project.
When they say the liberal left, they mean the Democrats. These are not Democrats. These are not liberals. These are communists. The Denver communists explicitly shit talk Democrats and liberals all the time. So they are, no, I'm not going to rewind that. So when he's saying the liberal or the progressive left, he's saying they are not on our team. He also mentioned reformism. These people believe, the Denver communists explicitly believe that people who run for office or try to work within the electoral systems are literal sellouts. They believe Zoran Mandami, who's running for mayor in New York City, they believe he's a sellout. They don't believe he's a real communist. And so they are against liberalism. They're against the Democratic Party. They're also against reformist socialists who want to work within the system.
I think that Brian says here in the introduction, we have a much more demographically diverse police force now than, say, in the 60s and 70s, when abolition theory was really coming to the forefront of the new left. It's not all just white men now, as everyone's aware on this call, but that doesn't change the material of the police. I also like how Brian mentions here that, because in many circles, I think when we talk about abolition and say it has to be tied to revolutionary organizing and struggle, you'll get people on the left who respond with, well, that's not the most practical task at hand right now. We need to make people's material conditions better. And I like how Brian does say here in the introduction, rather than capitalist states being sites of struggle that can perhaps be repurposed for our aims, states are the chief obstacle to achieving abolition. So anti-capitalists and abolitionists alike must be clear that we need to abolish the state to achieve liberation as we build our own networks and institutions to replace it, but that also doesn't invalidate the struggle for smaller reforms, like cutting their number, funding, and legal immunities, and replacing police duties with alternatives to the police. All of that has to be tied to revolutionary organizing and revolutionary struggle in the long term and in the short term, but that's not our end goal, obviously. And we have to bear that in mind as we continue addressing abolition on the left, especially on the Marxist left.
So what they them just said is, listen, we're not going to forego opportunities to make advances. If we can get some police stuff defunded, if we can get that money moved elsewhere, that's a good thing. If we can make some incremental progress, and again, these people don't believe in elections, so they don't believe in running for office, but they're looking for different ways to make incremental progress throughout the system. They're like, we're not going to turn that down. That would be a really good thing. But our ultimate goal is to overthrow the state, is a revolution against the state, the United States government, the Constitution, the capitalist state. They keep reiterating this. I mean, this is about as clear as I've ever heard them say they want to overthrow the government. And they need to abolish the police in order to overthrow the government. So all the defunding of the police efforts is directly tied to the overthrow of the government.
Thank you, Ken. Good points. I got Kat next on stack.
Yeah, so
Great points, everyone. Really like everything that's being said. The cops being directly tied to capitalism, I think is an important facet to point out here. I'm also very excited to read this book to just develop more clarity in my politics and like a stronger foundation when it comes to discussing the police in general. It's very easy to just yell at a pig and to tell them that they're a pig, and to just throw insults. Like it's easy to do that. And who cares about winning a cop to our side? Fuck them. It's not as easy to persuade the general public, people that are under the impression.
I also just want to note here, when they're talking about the police, they're also talking about ICE. They're also talking about the FBI. They're also talking about the military. They believe that all of these systems are basically the same.
That that police make us safer, and there's a lot of people out there that believe that. But the reality that I think a lot of people don't really stop to consider is, for example, like calling the cops on your noisy neighbors. That can lead to violence. That small, simple thing of calling the cops and saying, my neighbors are too noisy, can you please?
Bro, they're currently winning. So, in reality, these people are winning. In reality, these are the people preventing mass deportations from happening because they're constantly attacking ICE and ICE facilities. That is happening in reality right now. So it is you that is not living in reality if you don't understand that these people are out implementing their ideas in reality, and you can watch it on the fucking news.
Please come tell them to quiet down. That can lead to violence. It could get either you or your neighbor killed. There's instances out there. You can look it up. You can find it, where there's some small call and someone ends up dying because a cop can't keep their finger off of a trigger. And so then, people will say, have nicer cops. That's the solution here. We just need nicer cops, or we need more rules for cops to follow. And it's like, that's the same thing as saying that capitalism would be okay if we had nicer billionaires, or if we had more regulation on billionaires. And it's like, no, because the system that created them, capitalism, needs them to be that way, or incentivizes them to be that way. So it's a contradictory thing to try to aim for. It's like, you're not going to get better cops through capitalism, because capitalism needs them to bash your head open when you say you're not going to work. Jason mentioned it briefly, but like I have been going to a lot of the city council meetings for Jack Scruton's family, who is a transgender woman who was murdered here in Lakewood. And it's a struggle. It really is a struggle. There are a lot of speakers that get up there and they'll say a lot of really great things about, community and fuck the cops. And I'm sure online and in the streets, they're saying ACAB, ACAB, ACAB. But then like we go into a council meeting and they're saying we need oversight. But also, I don't know what a grieving family is supposed to do. So it does kind of put people in this position where it's like, if I can't trust the cops, what do I do when I have a family member that gets murdered? And I think that that's the million-dollar question that we need to be able to communicate clearly, especially to our communities that think that cops make us safe, because they don't. Even like oversight committees. That's not perfect. I was talking to a friend about it last night. Oversight committee, like, while I see the point.
Well, again, I would really like it if people kept questions to the content of the presentation. We don't know how many queer Marxists there are in the US because it's never been tracked before. We are trying to track it, but I promise you this, it's bigger than you think. There are many there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. We don't know exactly because literally no one has ever tracked it before, but far larger than you think.
Denver has oversight committees when a marginalized person is murdered. Lakewood does not. That's kind of been the contention in Jack Scruton's case. And so some people are saying, can we at least do what Denver is doing? But that in itself is still not is still not great. An
Hang
oversight committee that includes.
I really wish conservatives would stop saying this. Conservatives say something to this effect in my comments all the time. They say like, they already abolished the nuclear family. They already abolished capitalism. They already won. Well, no, they actually haven't. No, they haven't. Do you know what happens, Tom, when people like you go, they already won. We don't have a nuclear family. We don't have this. We don't have that. We don't have this other thing. You give up and you stop doing anything productive. The fact of the matter is, they haven't won. Can you still buy a house? Yes. Can you still buy land? Yes. Can you still start a business? Yes. Do you still have parental rights over your kids? Yes. Until the answer is no to all of those questions, they have not won. So can we stop saying that, please? Can conservatives please stop with this self-defeating fucking attitude where conservatives are the victims of everything and everything is awful and everyone is against them and everyone hates them and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the Constitution still exists. They haven't won. The government hasn't been overthrown. They haven't won. So can we stop saying they have? Because it's one of the most unhelpful things that conservatives do. Hey, thank you. I do appreciate it.
Includes a queer person from the community. Okay, not good enough. Not good enough for me. Because, you know, if they pick Blair White, which I don't know if anyone on this call knows who that is, but she's a MAGA trans woman who's very outspoken and loud on the internet. They put her on the oversight committee and it's like, oh, yeah, no, she trans person, sure, but like we don't share any other qualities. And so, you know, people do kind of get reduced down to this base identity of being a queer person and being on an oversight committee, and now things are fair. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's the system is too messy and too violent for something so simple. That's it.
Yeah, really great points, Kat. I work in bars, and it's something that we talk about frequently in bars when you're dealing with like violent customers, or you know, people that like bring guns and you know stuff like that. Is what are you supposed to do? What the fuck are you supposed to do? And of course, our answer is like you know radically restructure society, but.
Radically restructure society by overthrowing the
I
government.
got Jason next on stack, and then Jim after Jason. And we're really juicing these 10 pages.
Catherine, I really like how you've sort of framed the problem. Like it's easy to yell at the cops. It's another thing to for us to be convincing to the people that are on our side, right? And obviously all sympathy to Jack Scruton's family and friends, and all sympathy to, well, I know at least one mother who called the police on her own son who that then murdered him, you know, and you know, it's not her fault. It's not her goddamn fault. It's the way that society is structured, obviously, you know, whatever. Anyway, and the same goes for being on the other side of it, having no options to turn to, you know, there really are none. And like Ben said it so well, like, what are you going to do? Well, seize the means of production, like, uh, uh, hate to be I mean, we'd never say that, but um, or we always say that in one way or another. Uh, but okay, so like to get more specific, like here we are. Um, well, you mentioned an oversight committee with trans people on it, giving a rubber stamp to the police. Like, I don't know why they're resistant to it. It's bizarre. It's gonna be toothless. It's a PR decoration for the police. And they try it at every fucking turn. They asked, the chief of police invited Lynn Eaglefeather, whose son was murdered by the Denver police 10 years ago, and we've worked with a bunch, to be on some, I don't think it was a straight up oversight committee, but it was some kind of like um, indigenous relations with the police body, and we talked about it, and I said, don't fall for it, and it not in so many words, like they're trying to integrate a threat and integrate a someone who has consistently stood against them and or recognized that they stood against her. Um, so, I don't know, like to get more specific, I would like for us to address the issue of oversight. With regards to the Jacques Greton case, in a way that is sensitive to her family and friends, and including and our comrades, sensitive to our comrades who, as far as we know, were the ones that encouraged this slogan to be raised. I don't really, or that demand to be raised. We don't know. But it's out there and being discussed. Frizzo posted some propaganda around Jax's case that was supportive of the demand, and they come from a political, Maoist political tradition that has been traditionally supportive of that demand.
Breaking news, Carrie Smith is still obsessed with me and still tweeting about me. So the big complaint that my haters have today is I made a typo because I misread someone's tweet. So I misread someone's tweet, I responded to it, and they think that this is not to do with the presentation. They think that this is the most funny thing ever, that Karlyn misread a tweet and responded to it, but she misread it. And it's like one of those things where I read antagonist as agnostic or something like that. It's some stupid thing like that. And it's just like, man, do we need to do a Carrie Smith special? Is that really what Carrie wants? Carrie seems to be talking about me an awful lot. If you don't know who Carrie Smith is, don't worry about it. Oh no, yeah, I misread someone's tweet. They think this is like the most hilarious thing that ever happened. I'm like, bro, this is basically a Monday morning for me. Like, how dare I misread a tweet? Oh no! Oh no! We might have to do a Carrie Smith special at some point, a Carrie Smith update special. Mike Harlow's been talking about me again too lately. Like, oh yeah, you guys owned me. I misread a tweet. Oh no. Yeah, I know you guys are all shooketh at the fact that I misread a tweet. Sad. Yeah, it is a day that ends in Y. Karlyn said something silly on the internet because she wasn't paying attention. Must be a day that ends in Y. Maybe we should do a Friday special. You're right. You're right. Friday Carrie Smith special. This is the worst thing they have against me. I misread a tweet. Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Back to the show.
So I don't know. I feel like we should huddle up on the side and figure out how to communicate a critique that, and sorry if I've gone on too long already. So yeah, maybe I'll stop because I was going to start going into like what the critique, like a deeper critique of the community control or oversight demands.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. We had somebody else on stack. Jim on stack.
Great stuff. I really love the discussion of, how they kind of try and rebrand themselves by bringing in oppressed people to help in the
No, bro, no. Stop making shit up. Do not bring conservative bullshit talking points into my chat. No, this is not correct. Can you please just stop talking and listen to what is being said? God.
Great stuff. I really love the discussion of, how they kind of try and rebrand themselves by bringing in oppressed people to help in the oppression. I think the way Pete Buttigieg has thrown trans people under the bus, as a queer man, he should be so ashamed of himself,
I had no idea communists didn't like Pete
he
Buttigieg.
has no shame. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I wanted to respond to something in the chat talking about identity politics, and yeah, like full sympathy to what Nate posted about like caught myself assuming that the LGBTQ community is as a whole is radical. I think it's a trap. Like I think it's a thing that we fall into that like is a very like not normal, but just like consistent kind of step. We were at me and Jason were at a town hall, like one of those like anarchist town hall meetings during George Floyd in a park somewhere one time. And they used a stack system, which was great. And they were like, we use a progressive stack system. So people of color, oppressed identities, come to this top of stack. Which is great. And we also, full support for that. And then like at some point during the discussion, this person goes, I've noticed that what's happening because we have a progressive stack is that all of the people of color are being moved to the top. So the white people are getting the last word. So what I need to happen is all of the people of color need to get back on stack at the bottom of stack. Which is just like, it's fucking madness, dude. Like it makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, I think that it's like tied into the police. It makes it so tricky because there is such a racialized component to this, and there is a gendered component to this, and we don't want to be like tone deaf to that. We don't want to just be like, this vulgar Marxist, where it's just like, it's all class, it's all working class, and we don't see color and this kind of like horse shit. But at the same time, we have to have like some kind of an understanding of like, the interconnectedness of these struggles. And I think that one of those ways that we understand that is through solidarity, through the idea of solidarity. Like solidarity doesn't just mean like kumbaya, holding hands around the campfire. It's not just like a synonymous with unity. Solidarity means I fight for you when it doesn't directly affect me, and you fight for me when it doesn't directly affect you. It's a mutual recognition of our shared struggle, our shared oppression, and that our resistance needs to also be shared. I think this is another way that identity politics is just like, it's a fucking cancer, dude. Like it's horrible. Like just yesterday, I had somebody say that like talking about gendered violence.
Identity politics is a cancer. Identity politics is horrible. As a reminder, these are not Democrats, these are not liberals, these are not progressives. Communists and socialists, especially revolutionary communists and socialists, do not like identity politics. communists and socialists, I know this seems counterintuitive, fundamentally reject identity politics. And you might say, well, Karlyn, they're talking about these gender categories, they're talking about this, talking about that. They perceive that to be a transitionary mechanism, and eventually their goal is to abolish all gender categories. So the best example for this is the category of non-binary. Non-binary is a rebellion against the gender binary. The gender binary are men and women. These are socially constructed categories. They believe that they don't believe that men and women are a biological reality. They believe that they are socially constructed categories under capitalism. As a counter to that, they've created this third category of non-binary. Non-binary literally means no binary. However, they view that as just a transitionary mechanism to get people away from these two socially constructed categories based on capitalism, and they eventually want to eliminate that category too. So these people don't believe in labels, they don't play identity politics, they don't like any of that stuff, and to the extent that they do talk about things related to identity, they do plan to get rid of that later once they transition people away from the capitalist constructs. I literally just explained this. I hope you were listening instead of typing and thinking about something else. So I would rewind and listen to what I just said.
Like, well, you're a man, so you don't have to worry about this. Like I'm some kind of like psychopath who just exists without, like, things just don't affect me. Like, oh yeah, like I don't like there's like violence against women just doesn't affect me because I'm a man. I don't have to think about it. Like everyone who isn't Palestinian just doesn't have to, it doesn't affect them. Like it's such like a fucking pessimistic, like nihilistic view of humanity. Like human beings are good. Like, crazy idea. People have empathy. People like are affected by things that affect other people around them. We're all experiencing this hellscape, not in this like, well, like, you know, men's rights matter too kind of shit, but like, no, like violence against women affects men. Anyways, it's just like it's the way that I think it's the way that identity politics breaks down and dissolves potential movements and potential organizations, where you're just like kind of running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Like the first example I gave, where you're just like, you know, putting people ahead of stack and behind on stack and just it's fucking nuts. So yeah, that's a thing. I'll stop talking now. Thanks for letting me tell my stories. I have Ken, I believe, next on stack. Looks like.
Yeah, I think that great points, Ben, on identity politics. Right on the nail, right on the head there. I think that was just, you know, the perfect explanation of how it's very divisive and can really serve as a wedge in the movement. While it's important to, as you said, maintain the consciousness and awareness of the importance of identitarian working class.
Hang on. Are you fucking shitting me? If you read the Communist Manifesto, you will discover that socialists and communists are allowed to engage in capitalism because they live in a capitalist system and they need to be able to survive in a capitalist system. So it is a conservative bullshit talking point, and a really stupid one at that, because you're ignoring the Communist Manifesto to say, these people work in a capitalist system and they shouldn't get paid in a capitalist system. Well, but this is why, what you need to do is listen. And I've already said this to you once. What you need to do is sit back and listen. Don't bring this conservative owning the libs talking points into my chat. I really dislike it. This is, if you want to know the answer to this question, do not ask it in a way where you're trying to dunk on the libs, because it is one of the least impressive things you can do on this channel. The Communist Manifesto gives them permission to engage in capitalism as long as they are still trying to overthrow the system, because they live in a capitalist society. Therefore, every time you guys post an image of a computer and you say, look, this person has an expensive laptop, they're a hypocrite for saying they're a socialist, or some bullshit like that, it sounds stupid, and it sounds like you actually haven't done basic 101 level homework, and you make us all look bad.
class politics as part of the revolutionary struggle, but not allowing for it to create wedges in the working class as a whole. I think for me, my question in the chat, and Kylie, thanks for your contribution to that. I do agree, the problem of explaining to people who are concerned and saying, and this is really, I know, not necessarily all working class, but a lot of like this is a very common middle class response
Yeah, I
to
already addressed that,
abolition
bro.
is, well, what else do I do if I feel unsafe? And there's always like ways of saying, there's lists of resources you can give to people outside of the police, and also explaining to people, the police actually statistically escalate violence rather than resolving it. They respond to crime. There's so many statistics they're super delayed in responses, or they don't respond, especially for people of color and queer people. And I think for people of color and queer people too, it's very different because they don't even ask that question because they're afraid to say, I'm not going to call 911 if they're going to kill me and I'm in danger from something else. So I feel like it's just such a horrible situation of despair for many people in the working class who, if they are being attacked or if they're suffering from, domestic violence or abuse, they can't, if they call 911, it's a risk to their lives. So I think that's one way I try to explain to people who have that response of what else do I do? Because I think that there's a lot of other answers to that, in addition to the fact that the problem with it being the system that sets it up such that, that is the option for preventing violence, quote unquote, even though the police are a tool of state violence and repression.
Did she actually say that? Did she actually say that? Because I didn't see that part. If she actually said that, that would be a great clip.
To essentially maintain the status quo. So I think there's ways. It's probably something for me to think a lot more about as well as we read this book, and I think it'll give me more insight into. And it's not like I get in these arguments with liberals about abolition. It's just I know that they come from bad faith backgrounds, saying that, well, without the police, what would we do? Type of shit that I just don't have any patience for anymore. But that's just something I want to think more about as we read this book and learn more about connecting abolition to Marxism.
Yeah, totally, Ken. Great points. I got Kat on stack and Jim on stack.
Yeah, Ben, I liked what you were saying about people getting caught up in identity politics, and how that can be sort of divisive. I have kind of seen this in my own life, where to also jump off of something that Nate was saying in chat earlier, about making assumptions that LGBT community is radical as a whole, and I kind of fell into that line of thinking for a while. But you meet enough people and it's like, oh, actually. But in my own circles, which were pretty radical and pretty queer when I moved to Denver, I kind of did have this bubble around me, just kind of thinking that like, oh, well, most of the LGBT people are like this. Like we are radical punks that say
punks, you say.
Anyway, I'm getting caught up here. And they would be very radical, talking about LGBT liberation and trans rights and things like that. And that's great. But then like when it came to Black Lives Matter, they disappeared. Where were they? I couldn't get them to come out to a march if I was grabbing them by the ear. Palestine. They all disappeared. They ran away so fast when I started saying free Palestine.
I doubt that happened, but okay.
They're radicals for their own liberation. They're radical for their own freedom. What about everyone else?
Wait, she said that? She literally said that? Reagan, can you put the link in the chat? Yo, listen, I dismissed your contribution a little too quickly because I saw a clip of it and I didn't hear her say capitalism. So well done. Well fucking done. Wow. Reagan, what was the timestamp again? I should have been paying attention the first time, but I wasn't. We're going to run out of time for this, but this is important. I want to see this. I saw it was 1 hour something. 1 hour 28. Okay, hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Shit. It's not what I wanted to do. 1 hour 28 seconds. So we'll go to 1 hour. All right. All right. Am I about to be completely vindicated on everything that I've been yelling at conservatives about for like years? Am I about to have a total vindication moment thanks to the black socialist on this stupid show? Let's find out.
A supremacy of whiteness versus people who understand that there should be an egalitarianism. There should be an
believe
equality.
that we are becoming the new white supremacists.
We are.
We've been putting them on a pedestal.
We are.
We feel like we can't
we
do
are.
anything.
No, it's not that we're putting them. It's not that we're putting them on a pedestal. It's that we are joining them and instead weaponizing our blackness against our people. When we do what you're saying, we are saying, I am better because I figured it out, and so you're the problem because you didn't figure it out.
But Amanda, what about if I believe that the American dream is, I have a right to that as well? Is that me joining white people, or is that me saying, you know what, I want a life for my dream? The American dream for me, because it may look different from other people. Some people it's a boss chick. For me, I want my kids to grow up in a wonderful neighborhood. I want them to go to college. I want to have a 401k. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I feel like a lot of times in the black community, we associate anything that's right or that's just or that's striving forward with whiteness. So when you say that we're working with them,
it's whiteness, it's capitalism. And I think that's what we have to understand the difference of. The concept of capitalism always is grounded in exploitation.
But Amanda, we're sitting here benefiting from capitalism, and you know that because you would want to move to a
understand that we are
communist
benefiting. I understand that we are benefiting from capitalism, but I also understand that we would have other people and a majority of people benefit if we were not solely capitalist. That is what it means to be a black radical. It's to understand that I can benefit as well as others.
So Amanda, what is your solution then?
Are you telling me that the black radical is literally saying whiteness is not about skin color, whiteness is about capitalism? I'm sorry, can I get a moment of vindication for the years that I have been screaming this at the conservative right? Every time they're like, the left hates white people, the left hates white people, the left hates white people, the left hates white people. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Is that what's actually going on here, or is it something else? Listen again.
I want my kids to grow up in a wonderful neighborhood. I want them to go to college. I want to have a 401k. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I feel like a lot of times in the black community, we associate anything that's right or that's just or that's striving forward with whiteness. So when you say that we're working with them,
it's whiteness, it's capitalism. And I think that's what we have to understand the difference of. The concept of capitalism always is grounded in exploitation.
I win. I win. I win the fight. This is the clip to end all clips. Every single time someone tells me whiteness doesn't mean capitalism, we are posting this clip right in their replies from now on. I just won the internet. Everyone else can fuck off. I've been saying this for years and years and years, and everyone laughed at me, and they said I was stupid, and they said I was crazy, and they smeared me on the internet, and they doxed my college boyfriend to try to get revenge, but I was right the entire time, assholes. Thank you. I appreciate the super chat. Boom. I win. I win the internet. All right. Well, listen. So actually, you know what? This is a really great place to end the stream. This is a great moment to end the stream on. Thank you, Photo Girl. Yeah, someone get the tip jar. I was right. I was right. I'm always right. Always. Karlyn was right. I think, well, you should make lots of clips of this stream. And guys, we're going to finish this tomorrow. So listen, we are on a little bit of a time crunch. Thanks, Tate, and I appreciate it. Years ahead. Literally years ahead of everyone else in this era. Christopher Rufo right now. Christopher Rufo for literally days has been going after this New Yorker person saying, she's anti-white, she is anti-white, she is anti-white. Now, if you look in the Twitter account of the New Yorker person that Christopher Rufo is going after, and you just look for the term capitalism, she shits on capitalism all the effing time. But of course, is Christopher Rufo going to tell that to his audience? No, because Christopher Rufo is a lying narrative shill that is funded by Israel who can't tell the truth if it smacks him right in the fucking face. Hey, J. Lou over on Rumble, thank you for gifting a subscription. I really do appreciate that. Awesome. So, guys, sadly, though, we are on a little bit of a time crunch because we have a spy stream coming up that's starting in about 15 minutes. Spy stream is when we go inside a live leftist training and we watch it live. And this is going to be a supporter exclusive spy stream. We are going to be getting started soon. But we do have a little bit of the video that our secret spy got for us. We do have a little bit of this video left. Let's see. We have about 20 minutes of this video left. So here's what I want to do, guys. I want to finish this video that we're watching, but we're going to have to do it tomorrow, okay? So on tomorrow's show, we will watch the last 20 minutes of this presentation and we will continue to break it down and talk about it. We'll also do something else. I'm sure there's going to be many other things for us to talk about. There always are. So don't think we're going to give up on this video. We just have to go to something else because we have a schedule to maintain. If you would like to join us for Spy Stream is open to supporters on the following platforms. My main Substack, Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. My locals community, my Patreon, my Twitter subscribers, and my YouTube channel members. So if you have a YouTube channel membership, just check the community tab. You will find the link to the spy stream. Everyone else can find the link to the spy stream on whatever platform they're a supporter on. My preference is that people support me on Substack, but if you want to support me somewhere else because that's where you do your support and it's easier for you, that's totally fine. It doesn't make a difference to me at all. But you can find the link information for the spy stream on the platform that you are a supporter on. So we're going to be going inside a higher ed organizing call with leftists that work at colleges and universities, and we're going to see what they're talking about, and that's going to get started in about 15 minutes. Of course, I will be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I stream Monday through Fridays at 5 p.m., and we will finish the rest of that video tomorrow, and we'll do something else too. But I definitely recommend come and join us for Spy Stream. If you've never been inside a live leftist meeting before, you don't know what you're missing. Like, they don't say crazy stuff all the time, but they say crazy stuff a lot. And if you want to know directly what the left is doing, I'll show it to you. No one else will do it? I'll do it. Fine. And when you watch my work, as you just saw with the whiteness means capitalism thing, you will literally be years ahead of everyone else on the internet. If you want to be at the tip of the spear and understanding the far left and what they're going to do next, there's no one else doing what I do on the internet. We are years ahead of everyone else. And when they think we're crazy because we're running around screaming whiteness means capitalism, and then 3 years after I start screaming it, clips come out on the internet saying, it's not whiteness, it's capitalism. Duh. Duh. Do you know how I know? Because I was listening to the left say it the entire time. The left has never said anything other than this. When you listen to conservative bullshit con artists, you get bad information because conservative bullshit con artists, influencers, pundits, so-called journalists, they don't actually listen to the real left. They listen to clickbait, outrage, porn bullshit. We listen to the real far left. We listen to the boring stuff. We listen to the stuff that isn't sexy. We listen to the stuff that's not going to go viral on the internet, but it's important. And it tells us what the left thinks, and it tells us what the left believes. So we're going to go do Spy Stream now. Take a break. Join us in about 15 minutes, and I will see you guys on the other side. All right, bye. All right, guys, we'll talk later. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer. people dislike me because I am not completely liked.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.